Welcome back to the final round. I want to bring in our next guest. We have Bimal Shah, portfolio manager at Thornburg, and it's great to have you on the show. I mean, we've been trying to make sense of the market moves that we've seen over the last couple of days, taking a look at some of the volatility in today's action, this rally that we saw in the final hour of trading. I guess, what do you make sense of? What's the big driver in the market? Is it these institutional investors versus the retail investors? And how are you making sense of what we've seen over the last week?
Sure. The market has been driven by stimulus, and fundamentals have taken a backseat, at least for the last 2 months. But if you look at any leading economic indicator, what it would suggest to you is that things are different than what the market is pricing in. So essentially, what I really believe is that the market is expensive, and it is vulnerable to any kind of external shock, similar to what we saw back in February. We are kind of going back there where the market has become really vulnerable.
Yeah, and going off of that, you're saying that it's expensive. Are we at all flirting with the fact that we could be in a bubble-like environment at this point? Because when you take a look at some of the economic and the corporate fundamentals out there, we aren't anywhere near as strong as what the equity market seems to be pricing in at this point.
That's right. If you look at all the leading economic indicators, it would suggest that we are way below where we were back in 2019. Yet the market is, pricing in, as if we are back into 2019. And it's really, what as I mentioned earlier, what the driver of that is monetary policy. The monetary policy is in the driver's seat, and it seems like, we all live in a world where, Fed owns everything. Fed owns the world. And, if you think about what happened back in March, Fed was supposed to, sprinkle some liquidity into the system so that, there's some level of support to the market. What it did instead is it just soaked the market with liquidity. And I think we are seeing some negative effects of that right now. And we are seeing that in various places, right? So think about a lot of speculative buying that is happening, especially in the retail market, where some of the retail investors are, bored, sitting at home, casinos are closed, trading costs are zero, and they're buying everything, right? So that's one thing that we are seeing. The other thing that we have seen is that, the zero rate environment has created a lot of discrepancies in the market, right? So think about what has happened to the valuation of growth stocks versus valuation of value stocks, right? It's, it was at all-time, difference, and then now the delta between the valuations have just widened even further, right? So it feels like, Fed is creating a market which is not balanced, not healthy, and speculative, and I'm kind of afraid of that, and that's that's why I'm kind of we love the long short strategy we have, which kind of dampens some of the volatility we have in the market.
Bimal, Rick Newman here. How does the market return to fundamentals? Would it be a long, gradual, and relatively smooth sort of reconvergence, or do you think it's going to be choppy and unpredictable and possibly disastrous?
Sure. So I think we saw the same kind of speculative behavior back, in the middle of 2019, where we were seeing some of these IPOs that were coming at crazy valuations. And then, as 2019 progressed, I think, that kind of discrepancies went away. So I do see a scenario where, over the next few months, we do see some of the speculative behavior kind of going away for sure. And I would not be surprised to that. But, if you just think about everything else that is happening in the market, right? So you guys were talking about COVID, and even 6 months into this, more than 6 months into this healthcare crisis, what it seems is we know very little about how this virus mutates and spreads, right? So I would not be surprised, that we would see, some spikes in cases in different parts of the world, right? Until we develop a vaccine, the world is going to live in the fear of, a second wave, third wave, or more, right? So until that remains, the market is going to remain volatile, in my opinion.
All right, Bimal Shah, portfolio manager at Thornburg. Great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for sharing your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.